You know, when we talk about obesity, it's so easy to just focus on the number on the scale. But what if I told you there's something much more dramatic going on? Like a hidden war, a constant, low-grade battle of inflammation happening deep inside our bodies. That's what we're going to dig into today. We're going to investigate this internal conflict.
So first, let's just try to wrap our heads around the scale of this thing. We're talking about over 1.9 billion people worldwide. That's just a staggering number. It's way more than just a statistic. It's a full-blown global health crisis. But like I said, the real story, the one we're chasing, isn't just about weight. It's about what's happening inside the body.
So, let's switch hats for a bit. Let's reframe this whole thing. What if the real problem isn't the weight itself, but this war happening inside our cells? For today, let's think of the body in a state of obesity as a kind of biological crime scene. And you and I, we're the detectives. We're going to piece together the clues to figure out exactly how this internal war leads to some really serious diseases.
All right, every good investigation starts at the scene of the crime, right? Well, for us, that scene is the body's own fat tissue. That's ground zero. That's where this whole conflict is really kicking off.
Okay, so here it is. Our crime scene is called white adipose tissue, or just WAT for short. Now, you got to understand, in a healthy body, what is actually the good guy? It's the hero of the story. It's this amazing organ that's built to safely store any extra energy we have as fat. This is super important because it stops that fat from spilling over and harming other vital organs like your liver and muscles. It's basically a high-security vault for energy.
But this is where things take a really dark turn. I mean, just look at the difference here. On one side, you've got this healthy, neat, organized tissue, but on the other side, in a state of obesity, it is just utter chaos. The whole structure falls apart, it gets terrible at storing fat, and this is key, it gets completely overrun by immune cells. It's like the local peacekeepers have been kicked out and a full-blown army has moved in.
And that brings us to our first huge piece of evidence, a real smoking gun, if you will. Scientists started noticing these immune cells, they're called macrophages, just swarming around dead and dying fat cells. They form these really distinct patterns that they call crown-like structures. And seeing these crowns, that's a direct visual sign that fat cells are dying off. What's more, their presence is strongly linked to insulin resistance, not just in mice, but in us humans too.
Okay, so we've got our crime scene, and it is crawling with immune cells. The next question any detective would ask is, okay, who's in charge here? Who are the ringleaders? Let's identify the prime suspects that are actually fueling all this inflammation.
You know, this quote really hits the nail on the head when it comes to our suspects. The horror at their crimes is lost in the admiration at their skills. We're talking about molecules that are just so good at what they do. I mean, their efficiency is almost admirable, except for the fact that they're causing all this damage. They are the absolute masterminds behind this metabolic chaos.
So let's meet them. Our main culprits are TNF, that's tumor necrosis factor, and IL-1 beta. Think of these guys as pro-inflammatory cytokines. Basically, they're the body's emergency alarm signals, and they have a signature move. Their whole game is to flip this one powerful master switch inside our cells, a switch called the NF-kappa B pathway. And when they flip it, boom, a whole storm of inflammatory responses gets unleashed.
Let's break down exactly how they do it, their MO. It's a simple, devastating sequence. First, you get the signal. A molecule like TNF latches onto the outside of a cell. That's step one. This triggers a kind of relay race inside the cell, waking up a complex called IKK. And then, for the final action, that relay team sets NF-kappa B loose. It barrels into the cell's nucleus, its command center, and just starts turning on all these inflammatory genes. And the kicker? Those genes make more inflammatory molecules. It's just this vicious, self-perpetuating cycle.
Now, I want to be clear, this NF-kappa B pathway isn't always the bad guy. Not at all. In a healthy body, it's actually crucial. It's what we use for short-term stuff, like fighting off an infection or repairing an injury. But in obesity, the switch gets stuck in the on position. And that chronic, constant activation, that's where the real trouble starts. And here's why it matters so much. This nonstop inflammation isn't just some background noise. It directly gets in the way of how our cells are supposed to listen to insulin.
Okay, so we've got our suspects, we know their weapon of choice, this NF-kappa B pathway. Now let's dig deeper into their MO, their modus operandi. How exactly are these fat cells dying? Because, as it turns out, the way they die is absolutely crucial. It determines just how much chaos and inflammation gets left behind. First up, we have MO number 1, apoptosis. The best way to think of this is like a controlled demolition. It's a programmed, super-orderly death. The cell just shrinks down, packages itself up neatly, and gets quietly cleaned up by the immune system. The fallout? Almost no inflammation. It's a clean death, a clean getaway.
Then we have MO number 2, necroptosis. And this is, well, it's the polar opposite. This isn't a controlled demolition. It's a messy, chaotic explosion. The cell swells up, it bursts, and it just spills all of its guts out into the surrounding tissue. All that cellular junk acts like a massive alarm bell, setting off a huge inflammatory response. This one leaves a very, very messy crime scene.
And our third MO is called pyroptosis, and that name is perfect. It literally means fiery death. This is a really specialized, highly inflammatory way to go. What happens is, these proteins called gasdermins act like little molecular hole punchers. They just punch holes all over the cell's membrane. And through those pores, specific inflammatory culprits like our old friend IL-1 beta get intentionally released to sound the alarm far and wide.
So, let's recap our investigation. We've got a chaotic crime scene, we've got our prime suspects, and we've got a few different, let's call them violent MOs. But here's the thing. This isn't just some local problem contained to the fat tissue. No, this chaos spills over and has massive system-wide consequences for the entire body.
One of the first dominoes to fall is the body's hormonal balance. See, your fat cells are actually little hormone factories, and in obesity, the whole production line goes haywire. Levels of a hormone called leptin, which actually promotes inflammation, they just skyrocket. At the exact same time, levels of adiponectin, which is this amazing protective anti-inflammatory hormone, they totally plummet. It's like the body is cranking the volume on the inflammation alarm way up while completely muting the signals that could calm things down.
And what's the end result of all this? The ultimate consequence of this constant, simmering inflammation? It's systemic insulin resistance. The analogy is perfect. Imagine insulin is like a delivery person, knocking on the door of your muscle and liver cells. It's trying to get them to open up and take in sugar from your blood. But with all this inflammatory chaos and noise going on, the cells basically have noise-canceling headphones on. They can't hear the knock. They just stop answering the door.
And this failure to respond to insulin, it's not some small thing. It is the direct cause of a whole list of serious, life-threatening diseases. We're talking type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, fatty liver disease, even an increased risk for certain types of cancer. This is the real-world fallout. This is the damage caused by that hidden war raging inside our cells.
So we followed the clues from the crime scene all the way to the devastating consequences. But, like any really good detective story, this case is far from closed. I mean, this is an incredibly active area of scientific research, and there are still so many unsolved mysteries left to figure out. Researchers right now are grappling with some really big questions, like, is all fat cell death actually bad? Could some of it be beneficial? And does the MO, the way the cell dies, change depending on whether it's in your fat tissue or, say, your liver? What if the very proteins that trigger cell death also have a secret side hustle controlling our metabolism? I mean, these are the kinds of questions that are on the absolute frontier of this investigation.
And all of this leaves us with one last, really fascinating question to chew on. We know our bodies are always renewing themselves, right? So, is there a healthy way for a fat cell to die, a way that doesn't cause all this chaos? The answer to that question, whatever it is, could completely revolutionize how we understand and treat the metabolic diseases that affect literally billions of us around the globe.